Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are back with another edition for you. My name is Juan, here with Kevin and Mark, and we like movies. And for this episode, we are going to be talking about Mark's pick, which is the film that came out in 2022 called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The film is directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert and stars Michelle Yeoh primarily. This is one that's pretty well talked about, so I expect that most people who might listen to this probably have heard of it if they haven't actually seen it at this point. But it's been pretty popular. It's Studio A24's highest grossing film. And if you know anything about Studio A24, they're known for very original movies. And they've been doing a great job. So, to tell you a little bit about the film before we get into it, it is a film that spans the multiverse, focusing mainly on one Chinese American family who owns a laundromat. They are being audited by the IRS, and in the midst of that, the mom is approached by a individual from another universe, warning her that there is a massive evil force that's trying to basically destroy everything, and she might just be the key to unlock it, or to battling, and stopping this force. Somehow this is all intertwined with her and her family, her husband who is about to ask her for a divorce, her daughter, her young adult daughter who has some issues, some mom and daughter issues and some other things going on in her life. So definitely it's a tumultuous time for our lead, and then she gets thrust into this um, battle for the whole universe. So that's where I'll leave it, and I'll pass it on to Mark to take it away from there.
I was really wondering how you're going to do the description for this because this movie is so absolutely insane. Kudos, you did very well.
Thanks.
You had me chuckling at some points because I feel like you're like, where the hell do I go
Hmm.
from here? But you did it, man. You described it. I feel like you hit it
I did
on
it.
the nose. Uh, for those who have been listening, or for those who are new, we are a we like playing with spoilers, and we will be knee deep in spoilers. And so normally I don't say this. I think I've said it maybe one other time. So I'll be saying it again. Pause this, what you're listening, pause, and go watch this movie if you haven't seen it already. If you've seen it, then great. You're swept into an insane adventure. But
I,
yes,
I already know where this is going because you only say that when it's a movie you like.
so I need you to pause this and go watch this movie and then come back. And without getting too much into it, I absolutely love this movie.
Okay, that's definitely not getting
That's fair.
into it.
I'm not giving anything right now, not just yet.
Kevin?
I'll go next. I thought it was an interesting movie that tackles some questions that a lot of modern movies avoid. It was enjoyable, and to me at least, it wasn't too overbearing on some subjects that we'll get into. Um, I feel like I should love this movie, but I don't love it. I liked it. Like the emotional parts were still emotional for me because I get emotional. But like overall, like I said, I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was as great as maybe it's just it didn't live up to all the hype that everyone was hyping up, but it was a good movie. It just wasn't like I feel like I should love it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
I think that I'm with Kevin a little bit. I mean, the movie, it definitely won me over, and the emotional chords that it struck, um, definitely brought some great resolution to the story, while also, yeah, just addressing some huge existential, just life type of really deep philosophical, just relational, just life stuff with family. And so with all that stuff, it really won me over. But two things for me worked against the film, and I don't think this gives anything away, so you can breathe a sigh of relief, Mark. Um,
That's okay. I've warned
One,
them.
and I think again at the beginning, or even I think the first half of the film, it's supposed to be chaotic, right? This woman's life is, sort of spiraling out of control, and I think they're trying to convey like that to give you that sense of like, you're on this ride with her, but it's a lot. I was like, I needed relief. It was too much to like. There was too much going on. It was too much chaos. That while, it didn't lose me. I was able to see, in the story how all this was going or whatever. But it was just too much to be enjoyable. Like that first half of the film to me, even though it might have been interesting, and and you are following along, it really wasn't like an enjoyable movie experience. I think there's a huge payoff, and like I said, the movie did win me over. But along with what Kevin said, I think also the hype, because of the media campaign that it's had, was just through the roof, and so I think that played an element for me where it was like, oh, so this is what it was, like it didn't quite for me meet, all the hype that it had behind it. I can kind of see it because it is so original, and again, it does tackle a lot of really cool things to see on the screen, and even personally as a viewer to think about and watch, and have even conversations about. But as far as just the film and the cinematic experience, it it didn't meet the hype for me, and the first half was just not too enjoyable.
Well, yeah, I feel like the first half was kind of setting up what the hell is about to happen because I mean, once you get past the initial setup, I mean, the movie kind of just goes absolutely bonkers.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. It's interesting that you felt like the first half was too chaotic. Because I mean, like I understood her life was chaotic, but I didn't feel like at that point the movie itself was chaotic until she understood how to tap into this multiverse. Um, I mean I like things are so regurgitated now, so like I like originality, and there were a lot of original things in this movie that just had me laughing, had me going, that's awesome. Um, the fact that as a mother, she continued to call um the bad guy the wrong name. I mean, at one point she said Juju Chewbacca, and that was killing me because I feel like that's what mothers do, like when they tell you to turn off the Nintendo but they call it the PlayStation, and they always call it the wrong thing, and she was calling him her the wrong person the whole time. So there was just a lot of little the movie's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there was just so many charming things and enjoyable things and things that made me laugh and made me point at the screen and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that," It just it was I felt like it started off, it pulled me in. Even like I understood that her life sucked, and this is her worst timeline. We are watching her worst timeline. Out of all her timelines, this is by far the worst one. So we're watching her, in her redemption story, because all the other timelines where she is actually someone that is contributing to life and has done. I mean, you have the alpha who created this technology, but here we are with the worst person in this timeline. We have the worst Evelyn, and now we're watching the story unfold. It was enjoyable for me, and I don't like to think too much, and this one didn't really require me to think. I felt like a lot of it pulled a little bit from the Matrix, how instead of putting a card into the head, into the program and typing in, she was thinking of a time, and in order to trigger that memory, she had to do something like pee on herself or something like that. It just it made me smirk, it made me laugh, and I enjoyed the different ways how she had to trigger that memory.
One one thing, I just want to mention. I guess we were talking, and it just came to mind when I was talking when Mark. I was listening to Mark talk. Um, the ending, I really like, because you're talking about originality, and I thought at first I was thinking the ending was building up to her accepting her daughter's a lesbian,
Yeah.
which I was like, okay, this is gonna be. But then no, she's like, look, this is her girlfriend, and she's like, mom, and she just ran off. I was like, oh, that's not what she has to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't about accepting it. And then when I saw that scene, like I did, I guess I might have overthought it, but it put the whole rest of the movie differently to me. That it could, like, I started seeing it like, maybe, like, yeah, maybe this was really happening, or maybe it was all just an allegory for her. I don't know if that's the correct word, but where she saw, like, she's thinking she's living the worst life, and and she had to come to accept certain truths about her life, because she kept saying, this monster's doing this to my daughter. You know what I mean? This is
Right.
happening. Nothing was her fault. Like, and all these other lives were better. But then as she's working through it, like, I guess in her life, you know what I mean, she starts dealing with her past traumas, and and learning to let them go, because they were impacting everything in her life, her relationship with her husband, her child, her father, her business. And like, I started seeing, like, those mental strongholds in prisons, just, they're the hardest to break. And
Mhm.
I thought it was great that, like, they did it. They went to the audit in the beginning, they went to the audit at the end. And even at the end, like, she was distracted again, but she was happy. She learned, she accepted, she forgave her father. She accepted her, that her daughter has to go her own way and she can't control it. And even to learn to love her husband, even though, like, oh, what did my silly husband do again? But it just painted him in a whole new light. He's like, oh, he just said this. And it just, like, that ending of, like, it wasn't about that. It was about her learning to let go and deal with these traumas and passion. Like, I was like, oh, like, you could see the whole film, like, that's, like, all those other worlds she was going into was just me. Personally, I was thinking it was just her dealing with all these other issues that she had in her head that she didn't even realize, that she never confronted. And she was like this older lady.
Yeah. See, for me, that was the icing on the cake, man. Like, I took that as, because Wayman ended up being my favorite. Excuse me, my favorite character, and just the way they ended up, they just the way they made him in the end. It just, I don't know, man. It really made me smile, and he was just like, just be nice. You don't have to approach everything with anger and violence. Just be nice. And I was just like, maybe in my old age, because that's kind of where I am with everything. I'm like, I might not agree with you, but I'm still gonna be nice to you. Like, I don't care if you're a lesbian, whatever. I'll be nice to you. Because that's kind of how, that's how Jesus was. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it now in my old age. Maybe having a kid is I don't know, making me soft. But when it ended up being Wayman, it was the one that kind of had to tell her, hey, you're approaching this the wrong way. That was the icing on the cake for me. So I agree completely with you, Kevin. I was worried that we were going to have another one of those movies, but when it ended up not being that, it just made it more special for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I also really liked Waymond. Even just so, Waymond is the character that is her husband,
Mm-hmm.
and well, heck of an actor.
He hasn't acted like
Sure.
forever.
Yes, dude, I was so surprised. Short Round, I was like, holy smokes, I have not
That's
seen
Short
him in
Round.
forever.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Short Round. He was Data in the Goonies.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, he looks a lot like Jackie Chan. And
I was
that's
gonna
not
say I don't want to sound racist, but he was pretty much the token Asian kid in that time.
I mean,
Yeah.
he looks a lot like him, but
He does. He does. He does.
no, I liked him too, and I really, I'm also again in this point, I see it similar to what Kevin is insinuating. For me, all the multiverse stuff, it wasn't real. Um, I think she kind of like had a nervous breakdown, and whether she was daydreaming or whether this was just a metaphor for the things that were going on in her life, and whatever process, whatever she needed to go through and to experience, to be able to, she basically reached enlightenment, where she literally had the third eye, vision,
Yeah.
with the googly eye on her forehead. But it just gave her a whole new perspective,
You
you
think like
know.
multiple personalities? Is that what you're saying?
No, not multiple personalities.
Mm.
I think at some point, I think she just, whether it was happening to her throughout the day, and she was kind of going in and out of consciousness. I
Hmm.
think, where she was having these visions that were correlating to real life, that were bringing, shedding light on like real situations, and how to
Hmm.
deal with them, and kind of how to see things differently, which she needed, right? She needed like something from something from like outside to like kind of shake her up,
Yeah.
and allow her, give her like a new vision from which to see these things. So sure, like, I mean, for the sake of the movie or whatever, we don't know. I mean, it could have been real, it could have been not. But for me, I kind of felt like there were enough clues, to because everything in the multiverse was just like an exaggeration of a real person
Hmm.
and a real issue that person was having, like
Like Raccoon.
Oh,
Raccoon,
Raccoon.
or no, I was gonna say like Jamie Lee Curtis's
Yeah.
character, who was this, hard, tough IRS lady auditor,
Yeah.
um, who was lonely, and it made her, this monster that went after people's businesses, and basically just did her job, but did it in a way that was very cold.
Yeah.
Really, her real issue was that she was very lonely, and so I think that, yeah, that it was more, the multiverse side of the story was more of a metaphor. But really, I think she probably like had like a nervous breakdown that somehow, you know, it's almost like, when people have like near death experiences, right? And then they come out of that, and,
Yeah.
you know, ice cream tastes better, and raindrops, feel better. And it's just a different, a new way to kind of be. Um,
Mm.
and I kind of like that. And then again, I mean, I really enjoyed, yeah, exactly what you said about Wayman. And that's the one thing I liked about him, was that he actually was consistent,
Yeah.
throughout. Like, he didn't just change all of a sudden and then start saying like be kind, like you saw throughout the whole film. Like, that's who he was. And even in asking his wife for a divorce, like, he didn't really want to divorce her. He was hoping that was actually going to plant a seed for them to be able to work through their issues. Then obviously, you know there's a major stereotype that they play on, with the, like, the Chinese mother. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the Asian mother. I don't know if that expands to every single Asian.
No, I think
But
it is. I think it is.
so it's like you kind of feel guilty being like, oh, I recognize that, because it's like you just call it, although I have whatever. But yeah, but you at least got to see, how, whether it's an Asian person or a white person, but this, over controlling parent can really, push away their child, and not really know them, and not really have a relationship with them. So
Yeah.
I really think that that's the sort of the jewel or the gem of this movie. I think the multiverse stuff is nice bells and whistles and like
It's fun.
a really nice metaphor. But
Yeah.
I think what really, wins people over about this film is the heart, and the message.
Yeah, and I absolutely believe that's what it is as well. Because again, it's not a perfect movie. And listen, people probably are gonna hate me for this, but yo, there are a lot of stereotypes that are just true. I
Hmm.
mean, like I'm Hispanic and I love manual labor. I don't know what to tell you, but I love I love sweating. And like if you tell me I gotta go move boxes from one hot room to another, I'm like, hot damn, let's go, baby. Like I don't know what it is. So like
Yeah,
listen, it's just I'm not a racist person, but 100% they
yeah,
played into the and I will say Asian as well because I know I have Korean friends, I have
yeah,
Japanese friends, and it's all the same. My parents, they are just disappointed in every decision I've made in my life.
yeah,
So I 100% believe that, that's just how it is, and I'm glad they played into that. And
yeah,
I enjoyed the fact that she made decisions and it caused her to do what she did.
yeah,
And I enjoyed that. The whole lesbian thing, I just felt like that was just thrown in because, it's the time. But it wasn't like just it wasn't over the top. So that's why I was okay. Okay, I get it. She's a lesbian. Great. It didn't, it didn't make it a point to say, hey, this is the point of the movie. But I 100% believe that they played into that because there's also that stereotype of moms who just like for for my wife's mother, she has four daughters, and she literally goes through the first three of the one that she's not trying to call. So she'll say if she's trying to get in touch with daughter number one, she'll say daughter number two's name first, then three, then four, and then get to daughter number one. So like the fact that she couldn't say this bad guy's name right was hilarious, and I absolutely played into the fact that moms just become forgetful when you have to name something. I mean, my wife's done it. Juan, I know you. I mean, that's probably happened once or twice, right?
hmm,
Kevin, yeah, you've
hmm,
had it
Yeah.
happen.
yeah. And I mean, I'm with you as far as stereotypes, and I would add that even the fact that the daughter is a lesbian, even that's playing on a sort of stereotype in the sense that that is a big deal in that culture, as it is in many of our
Well,
cultures.
yeah,
Not too many minority cultures are are at at this day as accepting as Americans in San Francisco or Austin, Texas, or New York, or some of these very liberal parts of the country. you know a lot of other parts of the world, they're having to deal with this more and more as it's increasing, but it still is not. I just think they did for me, it was a little bit more than, like you said, kind of like just thrown in there because of the times. I mean, I think it is that, but also I
yeah.
think it also just is like
No,
something
you
real,
make a
that
solid
like
point. Yeah, yeah,
people are like dealing with, and it does create this kind of friction and tension, and even for people who are not of that lifestyle, or necessarily, maybe I would say, approve of that lifestyle, like you still have to, at some point maybe confront the fact of someone a relative, perhaps even your own child, coming home and saying like, hey, I feel this way or whatever, and that creates tension and
mhm,
conflict, and learning how to deal with that. But I mean, I'm with you, man. I have really no problem with like stereotypes. For me, they're just observations. It's like,
yeah,
when 90% of a culture does, relates to this thing, like it's the only people who don't like stereotypes are people who can't laugh at themselves.
right,
People who take themselves too seriously. It's like, it's funny to laugh, observe, and laugh at your own, and also it's endearing to be able to like observe that in other people. And I mean, I guess as long as you are not, you know, or racist or like hateful, you know. It's just like, oh, and especially if you have friends from all these
Right.
different backgrounds and
Yeah.
ethnicities and countries and cultures, you see those things in your friends and in their families, and it's like, oh, it's funny, you know,
Right.
and it's endearing, you know. It like it's a sense of familiarity of
Right.
like knowing something about a culture, you know, and even connecting people who would normally be like worlds apart, if that makes sense.
No, for real. I mean, listen, I got no problem admitting that black beans and rice will stop me in my tracks. Like that does not offend me.
Hmm.
Like I don't care. You know, so that I just want to make it known that I absolutely believe that stereotypes are 100%
Oh
real.
man, I mean,
They're 100%
it's
real.
you know, I'm married to a white woman,
Uh-huh.
and one of the funniest things is like
Chuckling.
she, you know, I mean, growing up, I ate rice like pretty much every day. You know, like that's like unheard of to them. Like she rarely ate rice. Now she's like learned how to cook it to perfection because she's like, you know, Juan eats rice all the time, and it's so interesting
She's
to it's so
she's
interesting.
sneaking in some for herself. Come on.
No, she loves it. She loves it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, she cooks it really well, but it was like so interesting to me that, you know, something that, I mean, rice is like a food group in my home, you know, like
Telling you,
on
bro. It's its
it,
own little pyramid.
yeah, it's its own little section in the pyramid, like just rice. For her, it was like, oh, we like she rarely ate rice. I was like, what?
She do that and with grain and bread.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So I
Mm.
guess um one of my questions, you know, which I think is the movie, one of the questions that the movie revolves around,
Yeah.
is, you know, what were your thoughts about the black bagel?
I mean, it was interesting how they took that because you know you see a black hole and that's yawn that's been it was interesting and everything bagel because she took everything you know and put it on the bagel. You know, it made me smirk about it. Yeah, it didn't really. It didn't. I wasn't mad at it. I wasn't upset at it. It was whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was more of a MacGuffin than anything else. Like, hey, focus on this, but yeah, it
Not
was it.
really. Yeah. No, I thought it was. I thought it was very interesting. It was a tongue-in-cheek way of saying, "Hey, look into this dark hole and experience death."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was actually probably like the point where the film kind of turned for me, because up until that point, I really found the daughter like really annoying.
Hmm.
Just seemed, you know, like kind of whiny, you know, just kind of a teenager, like no one gets me, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
you know that. And
Woe is
now,
me.
yeah, exactly, and like I'm gonna destroy the world, you know, because of this. So it was kind of like, all right, I'm not a huge fan of the antagonist, even though like they the character was cool and like the powers she had was cool and stuff. But when it really got to like them two together, and she started to reveal more about, I think it was when she started to give her speech about like, I don't really want to destroy everything, you know, and I can't remember what else she said from there, but it was, you know, basically the fact that she
Basically,
could,
nothing matters.
yeah, like she could see everything, she could experience everything, she could feel everything, and basically, yeah, like nothing matters. And I think it is probably, along with Kevin said, like it is just a thing to draw your attention to, that it is nothing. But I definitely saw it kind of like as death, you know, and kind of like as maybe even a metaphor for like suicide, you
Mhm.
know, that maybe she was um uh, toying with, you know, with the notion of maybe like killing herself.
Oh,
um
I absolutely think she was gonna kill herself at the end.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting because what she had said, like she wasn't looking for Evelyn to kill her. She wanted someone that could that could understand what she was going through,
Yeah,
see what
she
she
just
was.
wanted her to experience it too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then even at the end when she's like, "No, you have to let me go," and she goes into the bagel, and then she sticks her hand out at her mom, and everyone's helping pull her back. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even think about the suicide thing, but that's really good.
Yeah, yeah, and I think if you like, yeah, I mean, the movie definitely requires like multiple viewings, right? Because there's just so much going on, and but I think even as I think back, to like just the despair that she was demonstrating at the end when she was by her car, and Evelyn, gave that powerful speech, where she was like, basically like, I choose you, no matter what. And like, it was cool because she was basically like, Mark said, this is her worst, the we're watching her worst reality. And yet she learned to appreciate things and actually embrace it as her best reality, um, because she had, really everything she needed. It was just a matter of perspective. But the more I think about it, and just again the despair that her daughter was showing, and even almost some of the things she was saying as she was kind of, crying out for help, kind of, like in a way that was subtle, but obviously like she was there, and she was trying, and but things were clearly very bad, and the relationship between her and Evelyn was extremely severed and damaged. um and so yeah, that kind of, once that idea kind of entered into my mind, it yeah, it was hard for me to like shake it, and it just became like that was the deeper meaning of the black bagel, for me.
I did have a note, like when Evelyn finally gave up, she signed the divorce papers and she was just, it felt like she had given up.
Mm,
Like I wrote, like, oh, like what happens in the absence of hope? You know what I mean? Because she had no more hope. Everything, like it felt to Evelyn, because I was just thinking what you were saying about the daughter, and then it ties into the end where she didn't have hope, and again confronting these truths about her lives. Because we all lie to ourselves, and Plato said the unexamined life isn't worth living, and she had to examine her life, and that big speech where she says that, like you said, like at the end when she's telling her daughter, like, no, it's not hopeless. Like, yeah, you want me to let you go, but I'm always going to choose you. I'm always going to choose here and now because I love you, and there's so much more hope if we actually look at it the right way instead of looking at all the negatives. And I had that little note here. Hello.
were you gonna read a note?
No, I was no. I lost my note.
Oh.
Sorry. That's why I was like, I had a note, but I lost it. My bad. Ah. But yeah, but that's all. But that's all that, like the Evelyn and even the daughter, like just what happens in the absence of hope just kept coming back, back to me after she gave up.
Hmm.
Like what, like, and how do people deal with it? Because I couldn't imagine a life where I couldn't communicate with my children. Like it must be horrible. Like they don't
Hmm.
always want to talk to me. It may not always be pleasant, but not being able to communicate, like conversation. Like I've had conversations with things with my eldest daughter Ava that I never thought I would have to talk to. I was like, all right, sit down. We have to talk. Man, we talk, and sometimes she yells at me, like she raises her voice, and calm it down, and we work through it. But not being able to have that ability to communicate, and I know it's true because it happens to a lot of people out there. There's a lot of kids who couldn't talk to their parents, parents who can't talk to their kids, and it may happen during the teenage years with us. But like, I just can't imagine that type of life that I was seeing with her. Like, and it was very saddening that aspect. That I was glad at the end she was able to say, you know what, I'm going to tell you what I feel, and she was able to overcome that.
Yeah, and I really like the boulders, the
Oh,
scene
so yeah,
the scene
the
with the
rock world.
boulders. Yeah, the rock world. Just that interaction was really cool, and that was also a very climactic moment when, what was the daughter's name?
Joy.
Joy, right? Joy went off the cliff there, and then Evelyn went after her.
I like the part. I'm gonna get you. Leave me alone. I'm gonna get you.
I think one of the things that, yeah, that was funny. One of the things that I was expecting, and maybe it's from watching other multiverse movies, like, was
How many multiverse movies have you seen?
Well, Avengers
Give him
and also Into the
Spider-Man.
Spider-Verse. Yeah,
Or two,
Spider-Man.
or
and
two
then
No Way Home.
I recently saw the Doctor Who, or
sequels.
not Doctor Who, but Doctor
Strange.
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 Okay,
So
so
there's been
all Marvel movies. Gotcha. Okay. Just making sure.
yeah. But what was I saying?
Sorry.
Oh, I guess what I was expecting was, and I mean it. Oh, this leads me to another point, but there was some weird stuff, like obviously with the finger,
The hot dog
the
Hot dog
fingers.
fingers.
I was
Disgusting.
waiting we were gonna bring that up, bro. Like
Yeah.
I was waiting.
yo, every time that came up when they were doing the ketchup and the mustard, I wanted to die. I was like, why is this happening?
I didn't mind the hot dog fingers as much as
Disgusting.
whoever's toes that was playing that piano has the ugliest, fattest, like deformed toes I've ever seen in my life. Why would anyone?
They have bunions. They just gotta go get
Listen,
that
bro.
fixed.
You can't have toe talent and beautiful toes.
They were gross, man. They were gross. I just don't like feet and toes. But what I was gonna say is like they had the one scene where it was kind of like animated, but I was expecting more. Like more, like I think in Inside Out there was if you guys remember that film, the Pixar film Inside Out, there was like a part where
take that for one of our reviews
where they went through dimensions where it was like yarn and then cubism and then a lot of different things were happening. So I expected like weirder worlds and weirder things. Although my other point is like, man, if you were paying attention during a lot of like, first there was one scene where I really thought I was gonna have a seizure. It was flipping so quickly, dude, for so long. I was like, I don't know how long I can handle this for.
It was just going through all of her lives.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And if you
the everywhere chapter. Yeah.
like if you look through each one of those frames, like, dude, they did a lot. For like one frame, they did so much as far as like makeup and costuming and sets. Insane.
Yeah. So I think that like sorry I got cut off with my Wi-Fi, but I do think that culturally that played into the movie a lot, because in the Asian I really do think in the Asian culture they look at like parents look at their kids and analyze everything that they do with a magnifying glass and just say the worst possible thing at the best possible time. So I think that played into it a lot, and that's sorry, I was listening to what you guys were saying, but I couldn't talk. But yeah, I just had to throw that in there. I really do think that for people who are from like who have the Asian I feel like Asians are gonna look at this movie and go, that hits home for me a lot. Like for real, because that's all I hear. Like with the people who I know who, Korean, Japanese, I even know one Chinese guy. It's all the same thing. Like my parents are so disappointed in what I do, and I'm like, "What do you do? Like you're making six figures." Yeah, but I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Have you heard that Ronnie Chang joke? Where I watched part of his stand-up. It was okay, but he had this one good joke that he was like saying that, like if your parents are Chinese, like you're always a disappointment unless you become a doctor. Like that's all they want is for you to become a doctor. Like that's it. He's like, he's like, it's so ironic because Chinese people hate going to the doctor. he's like Mom,
it's perfect. So I really think that helped push us into this. I kind of understand how I don't even Jobu Baki. I don't remember the real name. I'm stuck on Juju Chewbacca.
I just keep thinking of Jobu, the little voodoo doll from the movie Major League. Or Major League 2.
There was one. She said, "Jobu Tabuki."
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Jobu
Um,
Tupaki.
but no, I understood what she was like. Listen, I've seen it all, and none of it matters. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, damn, if none of it matters, I'd feel the same way too. Especially if my parents are, getting on my case about every little thing. I think that it hits home for different people, but I guess that's how movies work. If you have a movie where it's in a you're watching a Hispanic male grow up, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that hits home for us. um so I feel like that helped, but I was able to understand the her reasoning, and it made sense.
Yeah,
And I really enjoyed the rock
The Rock World.
universe. Yeah, I guess I don't even know what to call it, but the fact that she started moving, and I don't know, man, that was powerful to me because here we are, we're taking a rock, which is it's not an object that moves, and she wanted to, she found a way to be close to her daughter, so she started moving. Her daughter was so disgusted,
yeah,
she threw herself off the cliff, um, and her mom followed. So I think that whole stereotype helped play with the movie. I think it really did. Hearing that she was constantly calling her fat,
yeah,
that really played into it. That helped
yeah,
me feel for
yeah.
her.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was thinking about that as you were saying. Like, it is the stereotype that allows you to connect.
Yeah,
Because in one way you'll relate, and in the other way, like you have at least observed that, so it makes sense to you.
parents. Yeah.
Yeah, you've heard it or you've seen it, in a friend or whatever. Um, you know, this multiverse theory, because I mean, I think it is. Like, I mean, I've heard it said as a potential, like, actual scientific theory.
Yeah.
That, well, I believe you can make a theory out of anything. So there is a theory that there are, alternate universes or multiverses or whatever. But, like, seems silly to me because, like you said, this is her worst reality, right? Or her
Mhm.
worst alternate. But
Timeline.
if there's her worst timeline, if there's an unlimited potential of timelines, like, wouldn't there be a timeline where, like, she has no arms and legs? Wouldn't there be a timeline where, like, she's, you
But she was
know,
still better than this timeline.
Yeah, but she somehow she found a way that I am a potato, and I'm still gonna solve, like, I'm gonna figure out world, like, I'm gonna make sure that everybody has food. I cured cancer. Like, potato Evelyn somehow is better than the Evelyn that we were watching. Yes, 100%. You could
nah,
make
Because
a scenario that
not gonna convince me.
no, because yeah, because even that Evelyn, they said that was the worst Evelyn. That
that's the
means that
worst
she was
Wayman.
worse than the Rock Evelyn. She
Yeah,
was worse. She was worse than Rock Evelyn.
Well, Rock Evelyn was pretty funny.
she
Yeah,
was,
She had a
but that
great
was the
sense of
worst. That
humor.
was the worst Wayman as well. That was the worst Joy. I mean, all of them were the worst form of themselves. That was the worst Gong Gong because he wasn't doing anything. The boy was comatose.
Ugh.
So
Nah.
like that was the worst of everybody, not just Evelyn, but everybody.
and I think that was because again, like we talked about, like maybe it was more metaphorical, and we always think the life we're living is the worst one. It could be better, or at least that's
Oh
what she
yeah,
was.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
But
Even how we talked about the Rock version, I'm like, as Mark was talking about, like I think what was so great is like I think it represented who the mom and the daughter were. Like they were so close to each other, but they were so hard, and they weren't able to move towards each other. And until she decided she wanted to change, and she started moving towards her daughter.
and then her daughter decided, you know what, I can change too. And she threw
Yeah,
herself off.
no, but that's what happens at the end when she's like, "Hey, I'm moving towards you," and her daughter's like, "Leave me alone, just let me go," and she ran
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
well, and I just think back to something that Wayman said when he was telling her that this was her worst version, her worst timeline. But he said, it's also what makes you the best because you're the only one that has access to all
Mhm.
of those
Yeah,
other timelines.
yeah, yeah.
And I think, like Kevin's saying, as a metaphor, the deeper point there, as you see at the end, is that she's the most empathetic person of all of them, and hence why she was able to touch all those different lives, because she could then understand, like their brokenness, and could at least relate, and come beside them, and help, within that healing process.
She was trying to use all of those universes to solve the problem that was in front of her, when at the end of the day, she just had to be herself.
Mm. But
Mm.
I
Like
like that.
mama.
but she had to uncover that true self.
Exactly.
Mm.
Bro, this movie was so good, man. Outside of hot dog fingers, like the whole dog, I can't, like, sometimes I wake up making sure like I still live in a world where I don't have that ketchup and mustard, like when it was pouring out of their mouth, like that haunted me. That is like a Vietnam flashback for me, bro. I don't know why, but like I'm just not like I tend to be like a cleanly person. I don't like having both hands dirty when I'm eating. And just the fact that they had like fingers that were spewing out liquids, like it was killing me on the inside.
There were a
And
lot of gross things.
that was the only thing that got me. I didn't mind the bunion feets.
You didn't mind like the eating the chapstick,
No, I didn't. I
chewing
didn't.
the chapstick,
No,
and
bro.
then
It
like
was
her putting the snot in her dad's mouth.
no, not no. I did not mind any of that. But
There
the
were a lot of gross things.
as soon as she slid her Vienna sausage into her mouth and just mustard
So
and ketchup
disgusting.
started coming out, I died. I died. I don't know why, but that was just so. It was so bad. It was so bad. And every time and for some reason they kept focused on that world, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna see it again. Luckily, we didn't see it too much, but
We definitely, Raccoon definitely deserves more time, more conversation. It was amazing.
Doug, I laughed when she said it because I was like, ha ha, ha, that's pretty funny. But when they pulled the hat off and I see the damn raccoon, bro, I lost it, bro. That was the best, man. Like that was great. And then she's like, "Get on my shoulders."
Yeah, that was great.
But yeah, okay. I'm gonna get a deep here, but so I've had death like recently hit home for me. So death is like really scaring me right now, and I know it shouldn't. Obviously, that's for another time. But I've with all these multiverses been being talked about, and recently that picture coming out that shows all the different like universes and galaxies, like it really makes me think, man, like does God have us just like what is heaven? Is heaven just us like just jumping into a reality and going, hey, this is what I'm living until I pass? And like are we I don't know, man. It's so I don't know. It just it makes me think about heaven and what it can be because you hear the typical gold roads and gold buildings and everything gold, and you see all of your family members. Now I'm thinking like, man, what if it's just like a room where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna tap into this world for a little bit and go play for a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just it's had me thinking
yeah.
because I mean, there's no way you can believe in a God that creates all of these galaxies and not think that there's anything out there.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. So I don't know. It's just all these multiverse movies have me thinking on like a personal level, and and how I feel. Um, because I do hope to see the people that I hold so dear and close to me. Like if you guys were to pass, like I would hope to see you again. And what if that is in another life? Like
You,
who knows?
you better get used to seeing me in a different body.
That's okay. Like I feel like the body doesn't matter. Like I'll know you. I'll know your rooster boy. Like that's you. You might
Well,
be a different name or whatever, but I
what
don't know. I
if
feel like you stick with the same people.
as big as the universe is, to God, it's still only just like a speck of sand.
exactly. Like it's when you really sit and truly think about it, it's mind-boggling, you know.
Yeah.
And I maybe that's the point of life is just sit, think, and wonder. I don't know, but
Deja vu is what trips me up, bro.
yeah, that's
Every
that
once in a
one.
while, because
Yeah.
my dad, he has, his theory that he kind of believes in like a reincarnation type
Hmm.
thing, even though he's Catholic. Um, he believes in a sense he's got out there beliefs about certain things. So and one of the things that he has mentioned is like feeling deja vu. Feeling like he's walked into a place where he's like, I've definitely been here
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
And that actually, not that I believe that, but it does make me think about the multiverse type thing.
yeah.
If
Have
it's
you
like,
experienced deja vu?
of course, bro, what I
Oh,
what
okay,
I'm
okay, okay.
human.
But
Wow.
like, did you boys ever see Star Trek: The Next Generation?
No.
No, bro.
Okay, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. But it had to me, no, it has an explanation for
Sorry,
deja
man.
vu, which I totally run with. I'm like, and ever since I saw it, I was like, you know what, I could dig with that. Like, they just explain deja vu as, when you see something, your mind actually processes it before your consciousness could even relate to what it is, and then when your consciousness gets to it, you're like, oh, this, and then you think you've seen it again, but you really just saw it one time. But it's sort of like when you're talking too fast or something happens. It's just
Yeah.
your optical nerves took it to your brain faster than you could process it. So when you process it, you feel like you saw it twice. You've done it twice.
That's
Yeah.
not the logical way.
I
Yeah.
no,
Like
I
Matrix
definitely,
glitch in the program.
yeah, I
Hey,
definitely subscribe more. I mean, we don't even understand, we're not even close to understand anything about the brain, and the mind. We're so far from really. So it's like I'm more on the logical side of whatever is going on up there, but it's still like it still gives you that feeling, that's just so eerie, where you're like, man, why does this seem so familiar? And it's creepy when it's not even just a place, but it's even like someone that's there, or a car that
Mhm.
drives by, or a certain shirt that someone's wearing, and you're like, holy cow, either I dreamed this last night, or it's just the feeling that it gives you is so weird.
It's eerie. I get that feeling like I'll see a face and I go, I know I've seen it, and I've never seen that person, but for some reason I look at them and I go, I know I've seen you somewhere and I know you somehow, some way, and then I never see that person again.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I get that feeling and I'm like, no, 100%. I know that person somehow, some way. So like these, that's kind of another reason why I like these movies. And Doctor Strange did that too. This one played more into the multiverses because we got to see so many different sides of Evelyn. Um, so that was interesting. Um, and the fact that there was alpha, there was a version that considered themselves better than all the
the
other ones.
originals. Yeah.
I guess because they created the technology to tap into that, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a whole nother discussion.
Mm-hmm.
um but
Yeah.
yeah, it just has me thinking about the world and how big it is and how small we are. And are we really just experiencing it and this is life and that's that, or is there really more out there? And I don't know, but this movie played into that a little bit more, so I guess that's why I enjoy it as well.
I got something for you to ponder, Mark.
Hit me, baby.
So, if after life is eternity, right?
uh
And in eternity, there's no time, it's
Mhm.
eternal. So, are you already in eternity and here at the same time?
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't know. Could
Yeah, I
that
don't
be
know.
it? Is that is
'Cause,
that is that is that what's happening right now?
I
And
mean,
the eternity us is just laughing like, look at these idiots. They figured it out, but they have
yeah,
no idea.
I don't know, man. I mean, what is consciousness? We don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's I don't know. I think that's why I like heaven, because we have no idea what it is. It could be whatever we want it to be. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is the three of us just sitting down and we're watching different movies of our lives, and we're talking about where we have an interdimensional podcast.
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. But
Yeah.
Quick,
yeah, these.
on what you boys were talking about, real quick. As a person who had to, deal with some questions of morality in the past few years,
Uh-huh.
like I do think they're fun to think about. Like what's heaven going to be like? Is there anything else out there? But it comes down to a movie quote from the great Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure that ultimately, like, what I had to learn is that the best place to be is here, and the best time to be is now. You know what I mean? And like even with Juan said, it's such a great, like, man, like it was mind trippy right now what he said about the eternity, and eventually we'll find out. But man, it's so great just to actually try to be present without thinking about that. Like you enjoying your son, you know what I mean, and Juan being able to enjoy, his daughter, and me being able to enjoy her. Like it's so great, like on what we have right in front of us. Just like what Evelyn in the movie had to discover, like, her rock star world wasn't better than the world that she has, like right in front of her.
Yeah, I agree. But it's definitely hard. It's
Yeah, it
hard
is.
when, like I was sharing with you before this podcast, man. I have a lot of stuff going on right now,
Yeah.
and I was just thinking about that today. Like, my mind is all over the place to the point where I'm
You
having a
guys are
hard.
everything bagel.
Yeah, man,
Mm.
and like I'm having a hard time like enjoying, my daughter, or we're about to go on vacation, and like my mind's not there. There's too much. So I'm looking forward to disconnecting, but this movie what it made me think about was that, man, I just feel like we maybe I was relating a lot to Evelyn and saying like, life gives us so many freaking billboards as we're, you know, traveling through, and like so many warning signs over and over again, like, hey, slow down, just like what Kevin is saying, just enjoy the moment, and fortunately, if we're lucky, every once in a while we stop and actually pay attention to one of those warning signs and kind of recalibrate, but but then, I mean, that's life, man. And I don't know if it's just life here for us in America where we're used to certain things, or how much social media and being connected all the time, how much, entertainment and distractions. But it's like, man, there's just so much for us to battle to just to try to just be present. It's like there's so much against us that, I mean, I think the word of God is definitely something that I have found helps with that, and like praying, to like slow down. But that's definitely, movie made me remember that and think about that it's like, man, if you don't stop and like slow down, and then you could really miss a lot of things. And I was thinking about that actually because like I'm gonna be 37 soon. Mark's around the same age. Kevin's already a little bit older than us, but man, it's like we're about to be 40, and it's like you just start to get the sense that it's like, man, I'm not saying I don't have a lot of time left, but I don't have as much time as I did when I was 20. You
Yeah.
know, so it's like I need to maybe pay attention to those signs more, and whatever's going on, it's probably not ultimately as worth it as like just enjoying, my daughter and my family, and just every day.
At the end of the day, nothing matters, man.
Yeah.
And there's no,
Right.
and real quick, there's a verse that I think is so simple yet so difficult. It's like my current favorite verse, Psalm 46:10, and all it says is, "Be still and know that I am God." And like it's so easy, like, hey, just be still. No, but it's so hard to do because like you just get caught up in your thoughts and like, yeah, but what about this? What about this angle? And just knowing that, like, hey, if it works out, if let's say you go on your trip or not, it's okay. He's God. If my daughter, something happens to my daughters or this and that, because I'm dealing with a situation, I'm like, it's okay. I have to trust that it's God. I have to be still, do my little things, and don't panic so much. But there's so much you want to do, and there's so many branches you want to reach out and hold on to, and you want to put everything on that bagel and say, hey, let's take care of this. But you just gotta step back, and when you're juggling, it gets out of control. You just let it fall and say, I'm gonna be still. And I'm gonna know that you're you and I'm me, and you know what? I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna let you do your part, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what that was.
yeah, great stuff. Great content from this film. Clearly, yeah. So, Mark, I think the honors are yours to kick us off with our ratings.
All right. So we do some ratings that are 1 to 3. At least that's what I follow. We go by the Little Jerry system because we are a fan of Little Jerry. And I think I made it obvious from the beginning. At least Juan caught on. I think Kevin's caught up. This is a bona fide 3 Little Jerry's for me. I enjoyed this movie from the beginning. I have already told about 7 people that they need to watch this movie, not including the 2 gentlemen that I told need to watch the movie. I really enjoyed it because of this is going to sound crazy, but I enjoyed it for how simple it was. I think the message is pretty strong at the end. I think everything concludes that you go, man, that was a heck of a ride, and I found it very fulfilling. I think everyone played their roles great. It was nice to see Short Round doing his thing again. And he ended up being my favorite. I mean, Wayman was he went from being the heel of the movie to being he was the guy. We should have been following him all along.
Dude, and his voice hasn't aged one bit.
Yeah.
No,
Exact same.
No, it hasn't. No, it has not. So yeah, that's 3 Little Jerry's for me. Watch this multiple times because I mean, once you watch it once, you're gonna watch it again.
I'll go next just because I like it for the complete opposite extreme of what Mark said, which for him was the simplicity. For me, it's actually the depth. I will also give it a 3. And I will say that actually is this conversation, because sometimes there's just movies that once you start to talk about them and peel back layers or share that experience with other people, it sheds new light on things, and it allows you to appreciate maybe things that weren't you didn't maybe catch there upon the viewing experience. So definitely this conversation sent it to that level for me, as I think back on the movie. And again, the depth, the fact that it's, this woman really missing out on her life, maybe having a mental breakdown, this man desperately fighting for his marriage, this girl who is really teetering on suicide, and for me, it's the way that it didn't need to spell all that out for you, but it definitely, I think, again, for me, gave me enough there to connect those dots that just really send it to a whole other level, again, of depth and profundity, of saying like, wow, this movie is a lot deeper than I realized after I saw it. And that just makes me like it even more. And yeah, and I would recommend it, and I will watch it again, because it definitely requires it, especially after you've debriefed it. Then you're like, oh, I kind of want to go back and now try to catch more things, that. So to either support or or contradict my argument or my hypothesis about the movie. So yeah, I guess it is. I guess it does. I guess it is as good as it's hyped up to be. So it's a 3 for me.
Well, I'll start mine by mentioning one part we didn't get to talk about, which made me crack up, was when that dog went flying off that leash. Like I literally just laughed in my room. I was like, "Whoa!"
I thought you were gonna mention the butt plug bandits, because
Oh,
when I saw those butt plug
Goodness.
awards behind her, I'm like, yo, those are blatant butt plugs, bro. Like,
yeah,
and the fact that they use them, it killed me. Sorry, continue.
yeah, and the digital but that dog flying, like I literally cracked up in my LOL'd for real. There's things I liked about it. Like we also didn't mention like the part 1, part 2, and part 3 thing. I thought was very nice, where it did different parts. Because even when
Can
it
I
did
just say something about that real quick?
yes, you may. The floor
That
is yours.
actually kind of gave me anxiety, because after the first one, you're just waiting for the next two, and it was like anxiety inducing. I also was gonna ask if anyone was fooled by that ending, by that fake ending.
No, but I thought it was pretty interesting how they did that, where she just dropped over and the movie ended. Yeah, no, I thought that was interesting.
Oh no, but
Wait, what?
no, I was like, oh no, it wasn't fooled, but
Oh no,
but
I enjoyed it though.
But no, the reason why, like Juan said, it was a little, but I like the fact they broke up everything. Was one chapter where they showed everything. Everywhere was her experiencing everywhere at once, and then all at once. At first, I was like, oh man, it was so short, like all at once. But that's everything, and that's everything she wants, and everywhere she wants to be, all at once, is right there with her family talking to this lady.
Yeah.
And I think that I only got that like now when we were talking about it. So I thought that was a nice touch. I did start off this review by saying I like this movie. I didn't necessarily love it, but like Juan said, talking about it, dissecting it, seeing your point of view, seeing Juan's point of view, I did. I did think I grew to like love it a lot more. Not necessarily maybe to the degrees that y'all did. I personally would want to watch it again. I don't know if I would recommend it to everybody, because I don't think it's a movie that like everyone would get or like actually be able to process, like even the way we're processing, even if that sounds like high and mighty of myself. So I was debating on giving it like, because originally I was going to give it 1 score, but it did move up on our conversation. I personally can't give it a 3 just for slight stuff, but I did love it, and it did bring up my score, and I personally am going with a 2.75 for it.
So let me ask you. I mean, I went.
Sounds petty. It sounds petty.
No, it's not like.
It really
No, I'll tell you. There's two main reasons why. Like I couldn't recommend it, mostly because there was one, and then Mark reminded me of the other one. I couldn't recommend it mostly because the guy fighting with the pixelated crotch, but there's 2 butt plugs going on. I just don't think, like I said, like it was okay. I didn't find it funny. I think I blocked it out because I actually didn't like those parts. I'm like, all right, this is unnecessary, and I didn't remember until you mentioned it.
They were having to trigger memories. So the fact that there was something shaped like a butt plug, the guy was like, just jump on it to trigger this memory. Like,
yeah, and then the other guy had something else, and then they were fighting with it.
If it was that bad that it would cause you not to recommend it to people, why would you forget about
it?
Well,
it's not that I would like. There's just certain people I wouldn't recommend like the movie.
Like who?
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
but he wouldn't recommend it because not everyone will get it. Basically,
yeah, not everything. Like those scenes also. Like, there's no way I would recommend this movie. Let's say to my mother. You know what I mean?
That's what I was saying. Like for me,
but
at the end of the day, the message was just be nice. So like
no, and I said, I grew to love it through this conversation, and I thought it was really, I thought it was better. But like overall, like I said, message wise, I don't think everyone would get it. And then there were some scenes that I'm not gonna say are objectable, but like it just, I would have preferred without it. And like I said, that's my own personal, and it's not me being trying to be petty or anything. It's just those are some reasons. Like when I come up with my grading, it's like, oh, can I Would I recommend this to people? Would I do this? What's objectionable that I wouldn't? And then there's a couple of of those scenes that I'm like, yeah, I honestly I was gonna give it a lower score because again I didn't love it, but I did grow to love it through this conversation, and that did raise my score up a lot. Well, not a lot. Some.
Well, Wayman literally says, "Don't approach everything with violence." Like I thought that message is pretty clear. You know what? We're going to put a pin in this, and I want you to recommend this to your mother, and I want you to watch it with her. I want you to tell me what she says. You know what? Maybe we should wait till she hears this, so then she watches it, because I think you're gonna eat your words, bro. I bet you she watches and goes, "Oh, I understood it completely." Like it's an absolute like it's a whole.
This is what I would do. This is what I would do. I will 2.75 it. And I will in the future episode I will do an addendum if I'm going to watch it and I'm going to tell it, Mom, I'm not recommending this movie. Mark is recommending this movie for you to watch. Let's watch together. Juan is on the fence. He's neutral, Mom, but Mark says you would love this movie. I would love to see if you do, Mom.
You already I didn't say you would love the movie.
I won't say all that.
You said that she wouldn't understand. You said that certain
I don't. I'll tell you this. She doesn't make it to the end. She falls asleep. I'll tell you that right now. Money.
Okay, you're throwing in different. No. I'm going on the fact that she understands the movie. You said that you wouldn't recommend it to certain people because they won't understand it.
She won't. Like she'll be bored. Like she will fall asleep in this movie.
Okay, so then I want you to take a true, honest, notation of that. When you recommend, and don't recommend it to her at 11 p.m. on a Friday night.
No, I'm not. No, I won't. It'll be fresh.
Okay.
Fresh off a nap. Yes, I'm like, let's watch it. Let's watch this movie, Mom.
Dude, a lot of people wouldn't get this movie, bro. A lot of people wouldn't make it past the first 15 minutes, bro.
No, see, I don't think that's true, man.
It's absolutely true.
No way. I feel like the first 15 minutes pulls you in. It's
after
bro. That hour. No.
My wife would be checked out.
Huh?
My wife would be checked out. My mom would fall asleep. My sister would be checked out.
It's that hour mark. If they're still, I guarantee you, after 15 minutes, they're invested.
Nah, man.
Because that story hits home of, we don't have money. You know, things are falling apart. Like that hits home. That brings people in because you experience that. Like we have all experienced that moment where, man, I don't have enough money to do what I need to do to keep my family afloat. And I feel like that pulls you in. And then it gets crazy. I feel like the crazy part, that's where you might lose them. But I don't think it's the first 15. I think it's the first hour. After that hour, if they're just like, I don't know what's going on, then you lost them. That's where I'm at.
Listen, I will let you know. I will let you know the results of this experiment.
All right. You take your 2.75. You just shove that. Sorry. All right. So we got it, right?
Still a great score.
Yes, it is. It is. And you know, you're entitled to your score. There's no wrong or right scores.
Kevin doesn't like butt plugs.
Not a fan. I'm not a fan of fighting with butt plugs.
Don't knock them till you tried them.
Who says I haven't? Who says I have not?
You obviously haven't, because then that'd be a 3 points, my friend.
Well, Kevin, say hello to your mother for me.
Love you, boys.
Love you.